Okay, hello, this is the Alternative Review. I'm Ollie Bullard, and we've got Jake Bewley and Adam Butterworth.
Hello.
All right.
Right, so first on the agenda, we're going to talk about the general election. We're going to talk about the DUP, and we're going to talk about the Lord of the Bucketheads.
Yeah.
So, opinions. We'll start with the general election in general. Did you vote, Jake?
I did.
Who did you vote for?
I voted UKIP. Fully aware that I was not going to succeed in that vote.
Well, they did awfully, didn't they?
They did terribly. They didn't win a single seat. And
Which it's not much worse than last general election, to be fair.
and
Did
the
they actually
leader
get a lot of
resigned.
votes?
When I can't remember what time it was, but as I was watching, I saw that they had 0% of the total votes after a number of hours of the vote count.
I wonder why. I think it's because Nigel Farage isn't the leader, innit? Probably.
Yeah. I think a lot of people kind of gave up on him once Nige left. Like,
Yeah, that's true. Well, I read an article saying he's thinking of coming back.
oh really?
Yeah, like he's
Good news.
yeah, I think he's thinking about it. Just because he's surprised at the amount of like sort of involvement people have had with the general election. What was the actual total percentage turnout? Does anyone know?
Not
Of
sure.
total voters.
Yeah, because normally it's like really low.
It usually averages at about 60% of the population, but I'm not too sure this time.
Right. Because wasn't you linked that article saying like 70% of young people voted?
Yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing. It was 75% of young people. So this time it was 68.7% of the population
Okay.
who was eligible to voted this time.
Okay. I wonder why so many young people voted.
I think this is just my my opinion. I think it's just because of Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn, on his totally on his own, totally secured those votes. Like if you look at his rallies and stuff, his now infamous rallies, they are just filled with young people who are incredibly passionate. And at first I thought it was like just a small group of people that liked him, but I'm starting to think it was a real mass majority of young people were voting for him, I think, in this election.
Okay. Why do you think young people identify more with Jeremy Corbyn than Theresa May?
I mean, my personal opinion is they don't. I mean, I voted for Jeremy Corbyn, but my personal opinion is that young people don't know about the horrors of socialism. I think they need to learn it for themselves. I think they need a term where they can realize socialism doesn't work, because at the moment everybody's sold on the idea of socialism rather than the actual fact of what it is historically.
Yeah, it's bit of a pipe dream, isn't it? A lot of Labour's notorious for it, getting in government and just they're so unrealistic with everything that the economy just goes to pot.
Yeah.
I remember I saw something that was pretty funny. It was like just a repeated sentence that kept going on and on. It was like, you try socialism, but then you realize that it didn't work. But then you try it again because last time you didn't do it right. So you try socialism, and then you realize that it didn't work. And it just keeps going over and over.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of people get into politics like because of the image that goes along with being into politics now. Like young people, like I don't know.
Yeah,
I think I see a lot of people that I think are pretending to be interested and pretending to care about it.
Yeah.
For some reason. I think more young people genuinely do care about it than used to, but a lot of them are just pretending to. I'm not sure why that is.
I think. Well, if you take, Islam for example, and this is just a very small example. Do you think as many young people would be rushing to its defense if it was not socially popular? to rush to its defense.
Definitely not. Well, because if it wasn't part of the social paradigm, like to be all accepting of it, the only way you would sort of have any bearing on which to sort of discern whether or not you should be accepting of it is to actually learn about it. It's only, people only conclude that they need to be accepting of Islam now, like easily and en masse, because it's a paradigm, because everyone's saying it. So there's no need to actually know about what you're talking about, if that makes sense. It's like with any paradigm, when I think it comes from the top down. The government pushes something, and then it ends up in the education system. We grow up just with that being affirmed in that sort of knowledge, and so we've got no need to challenge something like that, because it's a given. We've grown up being told it. You know what I mean?
It's kind of drilled in now, like total acceptance of everything.
Yeah,
really
having an open mind.
Yeah, without
all about
open-mindedness.
Yeah. It's. I remember. It makes me think about that Socrates play. That when Jesus met Socrates play.
Yeah.
That you showed me, Jake.
Yeah.
And Socrates in the play at one point says the purpose of an open mind is to be closed around the truth.
Yeah.
And
that's good. That.
Yeah, I love that one. And like the thing that always makes me, I mean, like in today's society, this Bernie Sanders thing is a classic example, which I guess we could have spoken about later on, but I don't know. It's a classic example, is that like people aren't interested in what's true if it's not politically correct. It's almost like people are now deciding on what they're going to accept as the truth based on how offensive it is, or like how
it makes other people feel,
how comfortable it is to your emotion, how pleasing it is to you, rather than whether or not it's just true for the sake of being true. You know what I mean? Like, so you can believe something like the Bernie Sanders thing, going off at this guy because he's got Christian values that means like he doesn't think Muslims are going to go to heaven being Muslims, and he's going mental at him for that.
Like outline what it is we're talking about to begin with.
Yeah.
So like, there's I don't know if it's some kind of hearing, is it, for a particular person in some kind of office in the
it's in the Senate, isn't it?
Right, in the Senate, and Bernie Sanders is basically grilling him about. For whether he is suitable for the position or not, and he says he's asking him if he thinks that Muslims will go to hell, and he continually says like, yeah, I'm a Christian, so I do think that if you don't follow Christ, you're gonna go to hell, and Bernie just keeps like interrupting him, and he doesn't let him kind of get the point out that if you have to accept that like Christianity and me personally are not the only people who have this view, that there is exclusivism in Christianity, and there is exclusivism in Islam, and there is in Judaism.
Yeah.
It's not something that makes you inherently an evil person, right?
Yeah, and see, like, so this as an example, what it shows to me, and this is from one of the highest seats of power in one of the most powerful countries in the world, if not the most powerful country in the world. It shows that there's a greater priority put on people's feelings and put on being politically correct than something just simply being true, like them finding out what's the truth. The guy believes it because he feels that he has reason to accept it as truth. Whether or not it's going to upset someone at that point shouldn't matter, really. Upsetting people should matter in terms of the way that you try and communicate that truth. But if it's true, it's true. It doesn't matter. You can't blame someone for just believing what they believe. Even a Muslim, if they feel like, honestly, like they've looked at the information they've got, and some Muslims, they grow up in a country where all that's ever been affirmed to them is Islam, right? And as far as they're concerned, with the evidence they have, it's true. I can respect that to a degree, but someone choosing to believe something just because it's comforting to them, or because it's got a purpose for them to believe that. It's not. I don't know. It's like it's a completely sort of debased way of going about living your life and seeking out your worldview, isn't it? Really.
It kind of opens the door to the nature, to the nature of like actual discussion, like proper discussion of ideas, and it's something that you don't find on the left. It's like that respect that you were talking about, where you look at if someone believes something to actually be true, you've got to expect that it's sincere, and so that's where the discussion of ideas can actually take place.
I can't blame someone for believing that, even if I think it's an immoral belief. You can't blame someone that believes it sincerely and just like would actually talk about it. It's like I looked at that conversation you put on Facebook, that thing you put on Facebook, and people were coming out of the woodwork from all over the place just to like bash you about like just an observation you made.
Yeah.
What thing on Facebook? Sorry.
The you were quite active in it, Adam. I put a post about the DUP. Remember the Well, I'll basically outline it for anyone listening. The DUP got really slated after they became essentially the way out of the hung parliament for the Conservative Party with a coalition with the DUP, and so they really got slated by a lot of kind of left wing media, naturally, for their past of having at one point been related to some militant Irish group. And also for their Christian values as well. And I just kind of came out and said that maybe you should wait with the criticism until something actually happens.
But there's like no one's ever heard of them, and like they've only just come into the forefront of like UK politics, and just based on a few snippets of information, everyone's already like jumping to all these conclusions when they've not actually, in terms of politics, done anything at all. They've not. You know,
One thing that absolutely shocked me was the reaction from Christians I know to this. Do you know what I mean? Like some Christians were so angry and bitter over the DUP and the Conservative government, and I was. And,
in what way?
I just think so there was one guy who I know who really was posting a lot about it. Well, there's two specifically that I knew, but then so many Christians were agreeing with what they said, were liking what they said, talking about how pathetic the Tory government is, that they have to make deals with terrorists and that they have to make deals with people who, I mean, the actual quote was who think dancing is sinful and all this. And I just remember I in response to this, I maybe did something, I don't know, maybe the most unpopular move I've done in a while, which is that I made a petition to invite Donald Trump to the UK to show that we tolerate people with ideas who are different from ours, and so far have had minimal, if not no, reaction from the same Christians that are supposed to be preaching tolerance in a way, not tolerance of people just because they're different, but tolerance with people who think differently from them, which is a tolerant society seems to forget about these days.
It's something that I really hate about politics in our country is the amount of the amount of hate that's connected to it. Like, I just wish people, and it ruins the whole thing and it clouds the whole thing when you've got ad hominems just flying everywhere, and it's like 90% of either side's strategy is just to criticize like people rather than people's ideas.
Well, I think I know why that might be. I have a theory anyway. Tell me what you think. So somebody was trying to I was watching a sermon. It wasn't a sermon, sorry, a talk about postmodern Marxism, and somebody was asked the question, why is the modern left in America, the far left, so violent all the time? It's a level of violence that we just don't see. And he kind of opened up and he said, well, if you look at, and this is true, my wife is from the former USSR. If you look up the former USSR and if you look up Nazi Germany, for example, violence is a tool obviously used to keep control. And one of the reasons he said was because if you think that your idea, your plan, if you think you have this golden thing that will make the world right again, if you think you have this idea that will fix the whole world, what would you do personally?
You'd fight for it.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's definitely an element of it right now.
That's interesting, actually, because It's like it's bypassing the whole. The problem with that is that it bypasses the whole possibility that you're wrong, and
Yeah.
like goes
Yeah.
straight to if you disagree, I'm gonna do whatever I can to make sure that you
Yeah.
don't get your way.
Yeah.
I mean, it amazed me the hostility in that conversation when I was just reading through it, and like some random guy just came in being like proper condescending, like I can't remember what it was
Oh,
he was
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
but it was about the DUP, and then you looked into it, and it was like that was like 30 years ago, and
Yeah,
it was
50
like
years ago they
and-
denounced the
yeah,
militarized.
they actually
group.
denounced the terrorism rather than anything else, like
Yeah. And,
Well, yeah, I was determined. In work, everybody was going on about how evil the DUP were and stuff like that. So I made sure on my lunch break I sat down, I read through their manifesto and their policies, and to me, they're essentially just a very, they're just a very moderate conservative party. You know what I mean? Everybody's kicking off about how they're anti-evolution and gay marriage. You won't find that anywhere on their political platform, anywhere about where they advertise.
it's because
Yeah.
one like the guy that founded it was openly anti-gay marriage, and like I heard someone at work, like I overheard someone at work saying about how they're against gay rights. Being against gay marriage and being against gay rights are two totally different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never
Like-
understood that actually. What's the difference?
Well, I've never understood why a gay person would want to be married in the first place, considering marriage is something that was designed, like it's a Christian concept, isn't it? As we know it in this country. Why would you want to get married in a church if you're gay?
Mm.
The law doesn't change what God thinks about it.
Yeah, exactly. This is my argument about gay marriage to begin with. Like, it's not like a government institution. Marriage is a religious institution. So why do why does the government get to change it?
Have you ever heard of Justice Scalia?
No.
He's a really interesting. He was an American Supreme Court justice, and he argued that gay marriage will make gay marriage. Gay marriage will make marriage meaningless, and it will be a slow tide until marriage is absolutely meaningless. And I think he's kind of right a little bit
Right. Yeah.
about that.
All right, sorry about that.
Carry on.
Got food. I can't remember what I was saying. Oh yeah, C.S. Lewis talked about how like just keep it separate. You know, like if why can't gay people just have like a thing where they just write off to the government and just say, oh yeah, we're a couple, and then like in terms of legal things, it's like no different from being married, and then
Yeah.
you know they
I
don't
mean, that
they
already existed, didn't
Well-
it? Like civil partnership was a thing.
yeah, but
I
it's
don't know
too
if it's different.
it's too connected. It's too connected. Like you have a ceremony and you have rings and things like that, and it's
Right,
still
right.
you're still married. Like
Well, I think there's a difference, isn't there, between being married in the eyes of God
Yeah.
to a person of religious faith, and then gay people now are married in the eyes of the government, and I think
yeah.
and that's
And-
the difference.
The problem with it is as well though is that the way they've done it is they've tried to integrate the marriage of gay people in with the marriage of straight people or Christian people, and it's actually encroached on the way that we do it. Like for example, the fact that I'm having this issue where I want to get married in this hotel,
Oh yeah.
and they won't let me have a Christian, like they won't let the registrar come and do like a Christian style marriage in a hotel.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just because a gay person might get offended.
It is
I've-
weird that actually, like, 'cause
It's mental. It's my wedding. Like, I don't understand it, but yeah,
it's like it's a broader issue than just gay marriage as well, because it goes even just to humanistic marriages or what is it like humanism marriages.
yeah,
So like it's completely not a religious thing anymore. It's got nothing to do with Christianity at all. It's entirely a
it's legal.
governmental thing.
Yeah, it's a legal jumping through hoops thing. But part of me would be, I would totally be okay with it if people were like, do you know what? I'm not a Christian, so I'm not gonna live in all of these ways that I disagree with that are Christian. But then they want all the good things as well.
Yeah.
They want all the categoristic things of Christianity that are good, like the marriage. They want our marriage. They want to, what else do they want to take?
Moral law.
They want to take our moral law, and it, and so that sort of passes on to our actual law as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as well, it must partly come from a misunderstanding of, well, because if you take away God, I mean, if there's somebody who disagrees with us here, they're going to disagree with us massively. But if you take God out of the equation, you also have to throw away all morality in somebody's life.
Yeah.
And I think, so if somebody said to me, oh, I'm gay, I want to get married, why do you think that's wrong or whatever? My first question would probably be, well, what do you think that love actually is? And then I think more often than not, the answer I get is, oh, well, it's a feeling. You just know when you love somebody. It's just something that you know. And and then I would respond, well, no, it can't be that. That's the one thing it can never be. Because what if the feeling goes away? Like, I'm married, and I know that sometimes times aren't super easy all the time. You don't have that awesome feeling all the time. So if that goes away, what does that mean, that I don't love my wife anymore? Absolutely not. And I think the Bible says, is it 1 John 4? Where it says those who do not know God do not know love, or something like that. And I think
yeah.
you have to understand, from a Christian perspective, you have to understand the kind of love that, well, you need to understand that love is laying down one's life for his friend. Love is radical and deep, but it's also a choice, because Jesus didn't want to lay down his life for his friend at all times. And I think that's something that people need to understand. Our idea of love, partly, what do you guys think that is? Our idea of what love is supposed to be has been so screwed up, hasn't it? By the media.
I was just no, yeah, you go, Jake.
All right, I actually heard a preacher talking about this at one point. He was saying, like, do you not think that idea that love is a feeling that can just hit you at any point is like just a terrifying idea of what love is, like in a monogamous relationship?
What do you mean?
Because it means that it's the kind of thing where if you're a married man, all of a sudden you can see somebody who isn't your wife and immediately get hit by something that'll cause you to just cheat on your wife without a second's thought and just ditch everything for this other woman.
Yeah,
that's just not what actual love is.
Well, this is another way in which marriage has actually been hugely distorted. Is that Christian marriage, the relationship and the upholding of that marriage isn't even contingent on love.
Yeah.
When you get married to someone, you can't promise that you're going to love them until you die. You can't promise that, but you can promise that you'll stay there anyway and that you'll make that commitment.
Yeah.
Whereas every other form of marriage, every other form of partnership, it's just contingent on feeling the same way about someone. And it loses a lot of its sort of nobility in that sense. I think it turns it into a mere transaction. If you're getting what you want, as long as you get what you want, then it all goes smoothly. But as soon as that stops, you just leave and go on to the next person.
Yeah, I think that's partly why and people in the entertainment industry in Hollywood have the highest divorce rates in the world, because we are sold this idea that love is it must be you, and it's like even if somebody's been married and has 6 kids or whatever, and even if they've got to be a dad to their kids, if they see a woman and then they just have that feeling, then they've got to go and be with them because it's for their own happiness, and it's really horrible when you think about it. It's kind of the same theme, isn't it? It's like, how has society rejected God? Do you know what I mean? Like, it all kind of... It's interesting, because that's what my sermon was about this morning, weirdly. But
I want to know how much of these things, like... I think a lot of these elements and a lot of these sort of societal institutions, they do things that reject God. And I want to know how much of it is intentional. Like, some of it is just like, I get to a point where I think, wow, they must not be doing this on purpose. They must not be doing this on purpose. But I don't know. It's like, it's compelling. I was reminded of something that Ravi Zacharias spoke about when Oscar Wilde was on his deathbed. He was what's the word? Like
hedonist.
A hedonist. Yeah, that's the word. And so when he was on his deathbed, he asked his longtime homosexual lover Robbie Ross, basically, if any of the young men that he loves sexually, if he ever truly loved them just for their own sake, and he replied that he hadn't. And straight afterwards, Oscar Wilde asked Robbie Ross to send for a minister, and he was converted, basically.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I
never knew
heard
that story.
second part.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's insane.
But it's
I hope
true.
that's true.
I think that's the difference in in not just homosexual relationships, but in a lot of sort of non-Christian, partnerships, so to speak, is that you're not loving someone just for their own sake. When you are loving that person, not just for their own sake. Apart from the fact that it's a transaction, or I guess it's connected to the transaction side of things as well, isn't it? It's like when you give someone money for something that you're buying in a shop, you're not just giving them money for the sake of giving them money, are you?
Yeah.
And it's in the same way that you're not loving someone for their own sake.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Controversial one as well.
Well, yeah.
Perhaps we should get back closer to the topics we were supposed
Yeah.
to be talking about.
I wanted to ask a question about the Bernie
Ooh.
Sanders thing.
I'm ready.
If you were in the position of the Christian guy, would you have handled the situation any differently?
Oh, that's a really good question.
The problem is he didn't get to handle much of it because he kept getting interrupted. every time he
Interrupted,
started to speak.
yeah.
So
That could have been
he was
due.
Christian.
That could have been due partly by the way he was handling it, though.
Well, yeah, that's true, I suppose.
I mean, you can only speculate as to what Bernie Sanders' reaction would have been if you had done it differently, but
Yeah, true. I think I would have. Maybe you could go the full Jesus route, and then if he says, "Do you think that Muslim people should go to hell if they don't believe in Christianity?" and then you could respond, "Well, that's what you say about me."
Or he could just tell him what Jesus says and just says no one gets to the Father except by me.
Yeah.
So take
But at
from
the
that
same-
what you
yeah.
will. But
I would
it's not
say-
quite clear.
what the word he used was like, "Do you think they're damned in their current sort of beliefs or something like that?"
Yeah.
I would respond with, "Yes, I do, and I think the same about you."
Oh.
I would, and I think I
Full
would.
on.
I would point to the next person and say, "Are you a Christian? Do you believe in Jesus?" If they shake their head, I'd say, "And I think the same about you as well."
Oh man.
That would be
and-
amazing.
And do you know what I would say as well? I would say the me 5 years ago was damned in the same way that you are.
Oh my gosh.
It's not about Islam.
Yeah.
No.
It's not about Islam. It's the state of man in general. It's the state that we're all in.
Yeah.
We're all in the same boat until we accept Jesus.
Man, I wish you'd have done that. I would have absolutely
It would
loved
have shut it down. I don't even care what Bernie Sanders' reaction would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the news story would be in the morning. Breaking news: Oli Bullard kicked out of court for contempt of court. Began standing up and shouting at everybody.
telling them they were damned.
In other news, 5 people got saved.
Yeah, that would be mint.
Well worth it, like.
And do you know what? You're never going to catch Bernie Sanders in a court saying to a Muslim, "Tell me, do you think this Christian man is damned for his beliefs?"
Yeah, that's true.
Never gonna
That's
happen.
true. That's very true. I think as well you've got to follow that logically to its own conclusion. Like if Bernie Sanders was sat across from me saying that to me, I'd say obviously, well, yeah, that's what it teaches. But if he lives in this worldview that everybody the only right religion is one that believes everybody is going to heaven, then that just doesn't make any sense because no religion says that.
Yeah.
No creed or faith says that. So that means they're all lying because Bernie Sanders knows the truth, and his truth is that actually everybody's going to heaven, and
the
then we
Church
just
of
ignore.
Sanders, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There was a really funny Babylon Bee article that said Bernie Sanders orders Christians to wear crosses in court so they can be identified, like in Nazi Germany with the Jews.
Yeah, I think it comes back to, again, this prioritization of political correctness and like opinion and people's feelings over truth. I've totally forgotten what I was going to say. I was going to make a really good point. Oh yeah,
man.
you know how I was saying that these paradigms, they come from the top down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it demonstrates that prioritization it comes from politics, goes into our education, and the way it gets into politics is that politicians believe that that's what they need to do in order to get people's favour, is to not be so interested in telling the truth, but just saying what people want to hear.
Yeah.
And it's that mentality that's fed down. But I just want to see a politician that doesn't care, as long as what he's saying he thinks is genuinely true. Like I think Farage is close.
Yeah. I think Trump's close.
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. I don't necessarily agree with everything that they say.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's kind of the point. They're saying it anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
Mm.
And I could be wrong as well, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think most of them consider it political suicide. Do you guys think that it's actually? So this whole thing, politicians don't answer questions. Not really. Is obviously like a really old. I mean, you could almost call it a meme, but do you guys think it's intentional that they purposely avoid these topics, or do you guys think they're actually ignorant to the topics?
I do think.
It's intentional.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because I think they're fully aware that there's some questions that if they were to answer, people would just be like, "No, I don't like them anymore."
Mm.
And so they have a skill of just subverting a question, which is why I love and hate seeing the interviews where the questioner just won't let it go and say, "No,
Yeah.
you still haven't answered the question."
It's
though."
so
Just
awkward
keep-
Yeah.
and cringy.
Yeah, exactly.
They
It
say,
makes us cringe, but it's the right thing to
yeah.
do to get them to
Yeah.
answer it.
They say politics is the art of postponing answers and decisions until they're no longer relevant.
Wow, yeah.
That's probably true.
We see
But-
it. We see it every day, you know, in politics.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that recently, how so many issues come up but then totally fall away, especially in the age of information that we're in now with the internet. Like, so many political issues will just arise and then disappear straight away without anyone actually doing anything about it.
I feel like there's been lots of attempts in Brexit for that to be done. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of things been put in place to slow the whole thing down,
Right, yeah.
just because.
How do you guys mean? Sorry, with Brexit, I mean specifically.
Well, I don't feel like it needs to be taken as long as it is. You know, the whole process of, you know, even talks about it, and like there was talks about doing other votes and all sorts.
Mm.
And there's people, not necessarily in the core of the leadership, just people on the peripherals, just trying to, you know, slow the whole thing down and, you know, buy a bit of time until it's not as relevant anymore.
Mm.
Although
Does
it's a
make
big
sense.
thing. It's a big thing. It's going to be relevant for a long time, but
Well, yeah, I think that's totally the reason why Trump is even being investigated right now. I think the Democratic Party are just trying to make something, if anything, stick to the guy, and it is working. His popularity figures has gone down, and I think. Yeah, like I ultimately, if they dropped it now, no one would care. No one. It's just the fact that every single day, every single news cycle, every single time Trump Russia. Even after the horrific Manchester attack, the headline news story in NNN was Trump Russia connection.
Yeah.
What is going on?
it's like it's a bit like if someone gets put on trial for being a paedophile or a rapist, and they get categorically found innocent. They are always, in a lot of people's eyes, going to be a paedophile or a rapist.
Yeah, I mean, people talk about this quite a lot, doesn't it? Like, when it happens often that a celebrity will get accused of rape by a woman, and then if they're found innocent, it doesn't matter.
Their
'cause
life's
it can
just ruined.
absolutely destroy them anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Which, like Rolf Harris, could you imagine if he's actually innocent?
Yeah.
Could you imagine that?
His career's still over though.
And like that, yeah, and they're finding a lot of evidence now. Not that I think he was innocent, but they're finding a lot of evidence that a lot of the people that testified against him were talking rubbish to just get money and, you know, and ruin the guy's life in the process.
That's frustrating.
It's a shame that it can happen, really, with the...
Yeah.
It's not even hard because it was so long ago. They're not going to have any evidence to even talk about. Although he probably was guilty, like.
I'm not going to speculate.
Yeah, I don't
I
really
have
know
no idea.
anything about it, to be honest, so I'll stay out of that one as well. If
Um,
we move back to the DUP for a second, maybe.
Hmm.
Someone came at me with the argument like, yeah, but they believe some pretty weird stuff. I was like, right, like what? And they said, well, there's a rumor. He said that I've heard they believe that dinosaurs didn't exist. And I was like, okay. I mean, I would disagree with him, but like, first of all, I haven't seen anything about that anywhere in that
Well, they're-
on the website.
Yeah.
I think he's getting at the fact that some of their sort of leadership's been creationists
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Their founder was a creationist. But what the first thing that I would say about that is, what does someone's belief or unbelief in dinosaurs have to do with their aptitude in politics?
This is what I was gonna say. That
Do
was
you-
the other thing
Yeah.
I was saying.
To be a good prime minister, do you need to know that dinosaurs existed?
Makes no difference whatsoever.
You guys are naive as to the importance
if
of
they
dinosaurs
were-
in the
if they
political
were-
system.
Right.
If they were running for some position in in a like a society for archaeology,
yeah.
then maybe
Natural
I'd
History
consider
Museum.
maybe I'd consider that as a useful piece of information that guy's a creationist. Other than that,
I think that's right. Well, any excuse, isn't it? The conservative at the end of the day, and newspapers are overwhelmingly left. Any excuse to defame them in any way is gonna come up. It doesn't really matter anymore.
you may as well be saying, oh yeah, he's going to be a rubbish prime minister because he supports this football team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no difference in the way that relates to the prospect of them being a prime minister.
Yeah. I just think the whole DUP attack is absolutely ridiculous. It's so unfounded on anything, and I think this is what the sermon was about this morning, about how basic core Christian values, anti-abortion, traditional marriage, a stance on evolution, basic core Christian values are now considered by society to literally be like nuclear bombs ready to drop. And then and even if they were wrong, hypothetically,
Yeah.
what does it matter if they hold those beliefs? It doesn't matter at all. And they wouldn't have got voted in. This is something you said, Jake. They wouldn't have even got voted in if they were that extreme. Come on.
Yeah.
What world is this? And everyone in Northern Ireland didn't turn into a radical extremist overnight.
And I don't see anyone going mental about the beliefs professed in the Quran regarding creation.
Yeah.
That's true.
No one,
Adam
because
was
there'd be
made out of a
an
blood clot.
awful, evil Islamophobe if they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's true. Nobody got kicked off when there was a Muslim mayor of London who presumably believed the Quranic origin of the world.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. Probably because he was a Labour guy as well.
Yeah, that too. One thing that's just been coming up more and more in the way that I'm looking at politics now, is the question of abortion, and that's a bit of a departure from what we're saying, but the DUP stance on abortion is obviously they're anti-abortion because they're Christians, right?
Yeah.
So that's been criticised by some people, and I just want to throw my 2 cents in here. I am also anti-abortion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing that always gets us is that people always bring up that it's even in the cases of rape and things like that. Well, I mean, before you even get to the extreme cases, you've got to get whether the normal cases is morally good or bad, and why. And then you can look at the extreme cases and see if it still applies. Right? So you go from it's murder in a normal case,
Yeah.
and then you look at an extreme case. Just because it's an extreme case doesn't mean it's not murder anymore.
Yeah.
You don't solve the problem.
People are. So we generalize abortion as being bad, right? If you're against it, just because we're not going to go through every caveat and reason for that abortion. But we say I disagree with abortion, and then someone uses one of those small caveats to almost say that your sort of generalization of disagreeing with abortion is wrong when they're using one of those extremes. So I don't know, it's like reverse generalizing, isn't it? In a weird kind of way. You're taking a really specific element of it to argue that the whole of the opinion is wrong.
Yeah. Which is, yeah, I see what you mean. And it's a weird thing to argue against, because you can do it for everything.
Yeah.
That if you decided that murder was wrong in any and all cases,
Yeah.
Doesn't matter
Well,
what scenario it's in.
yeah. Well, that's wrong because sometimes you've got to defend people by murdering others. Therefore, murder's okay. That's that's
Yeah.
basically what it's saying.
Can you
Yeah.
guys have you guys ever actually heard a good argument in favor of abortion ever?
Yeah. I mean, the only cases in which I think it would be, I mean, it's not something I've made my mind up on. It's cases where the mother and the baby are going to die, or cases where the mother's going to die, that type of thing.
Yeah, and they are incredibly rare. They're
Yeah.
far below
And the thing is with that,
0.1%.
what the difference is there is that in that case, the situation is not the result of someone's choice.
Hmm.
If a woman's been raped and they're pregnant, if you've got a teenage pregnancy and they're not with the dad or whatever, or they're not wealthy enough that they think they can deal with it, or they're not mature enough that they think they can deal with it, it's no matter what way you look at it, that's the result of a person's choice. It doesn't matter if it's the mother's choice, the father's choice, or a rapist's choice. It's the result of a person's choice, and you're basically saying that the one that pays for that choice is a small defenseless child that's not even seen the light of day yet. Why should they have, of all people, why should they have to pay for that choice?
Yeah, the way I heard it expressed was, why should the baby, if a woman is raped, why should the baby pay for the sins of the father? And then somebody said to me, well, why should the mother pay for the sins of the father? And I was like, oof, that's a good response. But I think ultimately what it comes down to is the statistics. And ultimately, like, if you look at the statistics, women who have children who have been raped are generally happier with that decision than women who abort kids that have raped. And I think kids that have been impregnated through rape. But it's an incredibly horrible situation that I wouldn't wish upon anybody in any circumstance.
No, it's not. It's not an easy decision to make. I mean, it's an easy decision to make when you're not actually in a situation like that. Granted,
Yeah.
it's easy to breeze over, but
Yeah.
it doesn't. The difficulty of it doesn't change. Doesn't change the morality of it.
The closest I've ever seen someone get to making a good argument for potentially abortion not being okay is like when you remove the idea that all human beings have inherent value, which obviously I disagree with. But even then, when you would ascribe other, like, what gives a human being value, and say that the baby hasn't got that yet, the same thing can be said for like newborn babies that are like 6 months old.
And there are scientists genuinely saying that.
Yeah, right.
I think there's a society of midwives petitioning to have post birth abortions being legalized.
That's horrific.
It's
Awful.
and I don't, stuff like that just makes me wonder what is going on in people's heads. I think that's right.
An argument somebody once posed to me was, well, it's going to happen anyway, so why don't we just make sure that it's safe, is what somebody said to me. And my response to that would be... But my
Not
response
safe
to that
for the
would
baby.
Yeah.
Not safe for the baby. My response would be, yes, it is safer medically than do it your own abortions. This is true.
Cool down
But I would say, when you legalize abortion, do abortion figures, illegal or not legal, go up or down? Obviously, they go crazy up when abortion is legal, which means it's better that it's not legal in the first place.
Yeah, that's a good argument. What I would say at that point is, I would say, have you ever seen what was it? Thunderball, is it? Or have you ever seen The Hunger Games? Or have you ever seen, any one of these sort of battle royale films where they have like criminals that are like, killing each other?
Yeah.
We should set one of those up to make murder safer, because murder's going to happen anyway. It will occur, but at least in this situation, it will be safer. There'll be less collateral damage. You could apply it to so many wrong things.
Yeah, it's like Jake said, it's entirely dependent on the dehumanization of the child in the first place.
Yeah. Well, it was quite a good picture I remember seeing on Facebook. It was like talking about can't remember what the first one was. It was the Holocaust, and then you had you know, not it was like not humans underneath it, and then like the date and everything. I can't remember what the other one was. There was another one that was earlier, and then it was later. It was just a picture of a fetus, and it was like not humans, and then the date, like.
Mm.
And
That's
that's the
horrible.
issue, is that they're looking at them as not humans.
Yeah. Have you guys ever heard about the origins of Planned Parenthood in America?
Yes. Yeah, I've heard
It's
a lot about this.
horrible, isn't it?
It's terrible.
Margaret Sanger
No.
was a really horrible person. Oh my gosh. She basically, if I told you this fact, Ollie, right? Half, remember that, 1/2 of all the black children conceived in America will be aborted. Half. Okay.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
a huge number. So Jake will know this. Planned Parenthood was founded by a woman called Margaret Sanger, whose sole goal of doing it was to lower the population, and she said we should target specifically black neighborhoods with an attempt at keeping the black neighborhood down. She was an open racist about it. And it sounds like she's really achieved a goal, I think. If half of all the black children ever born will be aborted
Mental.
in America. It's absolutely. She was active within the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh,
And,
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and she's what's the thing? Oh yeah, but I know that she's she was a huge fan of the eugenics movement, of the plan, like Hitler was, making a perfect race through the deliberate killing of other races and wiping out of other races through abortion. So she was really, really, really she did horrible things in her life, and she's held as a women's rights activist, and I just think that's so disgusting. There's nothing more worse for women than being killed in the womb before they're even born, for example.
Yeah.
just horrible.
Definitely can't fault Trump for defunding Planned Parenthood. But I'll tell you,
Me too.
there was something else that I found out recently it's really quite saddening about Planned Parenthood. There was someone spoke out who was fired from working there for showing the women at Planned Parenthood the ultrasound machine when they went in to have an abortion, because 80% of women who see the ultrasound scan will change their mind.
Yeah,
And
I
that
heard
person was fired for
It's like they don't
having
want
that
them
happen.
to. Yeah.
That's horrendous. Really, really sad.
Yeah. That is horrible. That is absolutely horrible. And did you guys hear the story of the Planned Parenthood? She was like she ran the whole center, and she left to be an anti-abortion activist. Oh, actually,
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Have you guys heard of the story of the woman from Roe v. Wade?
No?
No.
It was her case. She was Roe, I think. Her case was that it was a case in the courts that made abortion totally legal across America, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And shortly after this case, and she was allowed to have an abortion, she became a Christian. And one of the last things she said, she was quoted saying before she died very recently, one of the last things she said was, "I will dedicate my whole life to reversing the decision made in my name." Really
That's
interesting.
She died recently, did you say?
Yeah, she had cancer.
That's
I think.
regret for you, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Goodness me. Could you imagine that? Living with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
That was
That would mess you up, that, like.
not nice.
It's a genocide, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was talking to Simone's dad about that, actually. If you kill someone, you're not just denying their life.
Yeah, it's the life of all their descendants as well.
Yeah, do you know how many people that would be?
An awful lot. But then what would
I
you
mean,
say?
just in 2 generations, like,
Yeah.
it's like
Let
an
me-
exponential growth, isn't it?
Yeah. Let me be the devil's advocate for a second, right? So I'm going to say, what about the fact that the population is so high? What about then? Don't we need abortion if the population is so high?
No. Why would you? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, why don't you just kill people who are living? if it doesn't make a difference, like if you can't distinguish between, or sorry, if the
Yeah,
baby
if
that's
it's
in the
based
womb-
on someone's value
yeah,
or perceived value.
if human beings don't have inherent value, why don't you just kill the living people? It doesn't matter, right?
Yeah,
That's
if
a
they're
good point.
poor, maybe, or we could start with homeless people.
Yeah, start with the people who are actually a detriment to society, rather than the ones who are entirely neutral, right?
And
Yeah.
do you know, the thing is, we say it and it sounds so ridiculous, but I wouldn't be surprised if in 10, 20 years people actually genuinely start thinking about that.
Yeah,
No, me either. I wouldn't be surprised. I think the UK is really lacking an anti-abortion movement. That's why a piece of me is very thankful for the DUP. I think
Yeah?
we need a
I
we
just
need
think,
a bigger
like,
voice.
Even if you disagree with them, if they've got counter paradigm views, you should welcome that, even if you don't agree with it.
Yeah,
That's what democracy is. That's the point. And we've got a two-party system where each party basically believe the same thing. No one's got any real convictions that make them swim against any sort of tide. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. I
What's
must
the
admit,
point?
this sermon this morning was really about Christian values, very traditional Christian marriage values, traditional marriage and abortion and things like that. And I was genuinely uncomfortable because it was such a controversial topic and I'd not heard it in church for years. It was genuinely making me feel uncomfortable, and I was convicted because I shouldn't have felt uncomfortable because that's the truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think
Yeah.
tolerance is really, well, I say tolerance, a certain kind of tolerance, not true tolerance, but tolerance has really wrecked our understanding
society.
of the world. Yeah,
It's a really big problem especially in the UK, is over tolerance and over prioritization of tolerance. Like it's become more important than just the truth.
yeah,
but it's not tolerance anymore, is it? It's tolerance of liberal values. That's it. No other tolerance counts.
Yeah, it's like it's like a self-defeating worldview, isn't it? Really?
I remember
Because-
I heard I can't remember where I heard this from, but it was a good little statement about what tolerance actually is. Like, if you're tolerant with the people who have the same views as you, i.e., the liberal left, then that's not really tolerance at all, because you
It's
agree
not.
with them.
No,
You can only
it's not.
tolerate people that you actually disagree with.
That's true.
And like, I don't think it's reasonable to say that any Christian would be intolerant of a Muslim person. They would absolutely be tolerant
Yeah.
of them, even though they would openly disagree with them. That's not the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you find a Christian that doesn't, this is just to the viewers. If you find a Christian that is genuinely unloving, unkind, or unpleasant to a Muslim or a gay person, I would argue that Christian, and I mean really unloving, not just unloving in the way that we view loving as, oh, that's great, well, have a nice day. But I mean really unloving, like, oh man, I hate you, you should get out of here, blah, 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 blah. That person clearly isn't following what the Bible says a Christian should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to learn a thing or
They're
two.
a Christ
Yeah.
follower.
It's
Yeah.
true what you're saying about tolerance. It has been almost redefined, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's just it's now a term for acceptance or agreement rather than
Tolerance.
well, yeah, tolerance.
Yeah,
It's the only word
it's
for
a
that
unique
thing,
term, yeah.
and they've ruined that word, haven't they?
Yeah, yeah. Do you think any of that? I think not in the UK election, but definitely in the American election. Do you think this hyper tolerant attitude had anything to do with Trump's election?
No.
No.
Oh, what you mean? Like it was a
Reaction.
backlash against it.
Yeah.
I think that's possible. Yeah, I think the thing that amazes me so much about the whole thing is just the fact that he got in despite everything the media was saying. Like, if you
Yeah.
if you were someone that doesn't live in America, doesn't know anything about it, and you just had the media to look at, Trump was never going to win. Everyone hates him. Apparently, everyone in
Yeah.
America hates the guy.
Yeah.
What he
It's
what?
true.
What?
He's very similar to Corbyn in that way. I mean, Corbyn, obviously, all the papers loved him. That's different. But both Trump and Corbyn had incredibly loyal fan bases, I think.
Yeah.
I asked on Facebook the other day, who voted Labour? Why did you vote Labour? And what was really funny is all the older people were saying just really vague things like, "Oh, he stands up for the people,"
Yeah.
and things like that. That isn't true. But then all the younger people, and this is what interested me, because obviously the younger people voted more than older people. All the young people were giving me specific policies and specific issues that they cared about, which is very weird and different than what you would think. But yeah, I found that interesting. I wanted to do one who voted Conservative and why, but I forgot.
Sorry?
There's a,
Oh, but you forgot. Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. My brain just caught up there.
I've heard a phrase which I think is actually turning on its head now. Well, not on its head, I think, but it's dissolving, to say the least. Is that if you don't vote left when you're young, you've got no heart. But if you don't vote Conservative when you're old, you've got no brain.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But like you were just saying, like there are actual. Well, I don't know, because you could still argue that they are kind of issues of the heart that they're talking about.
Yeah. I think what you said, there's another saying kind of like that, Jake, which is, I mean, it's about Calvinism and Arminianism, which is just a totally separate issue, but it's by the grace of God, we are all born liberals. Oh, no, that's not right. Sorry. We're all born liberals, but by the grace of God, we die as Republicans.
Right.
There's another one, which made me laugh. But how do you mean, sorry, Jake?
Well, I mean, my point is that I suppose, because, like, as Ollie was saying before, it is kind of an idealist idea, like socialism. And the more you move towards socialism, the more it does become a matter of, like, of the heart, you know. And then where the conservative side is like, there is a certain amount of disregard for a certain amount of people on the conservative side for the overall benefit of, like, the nation kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I truly am a centrist on these things. I voted for Corbyn, but I truly am a centrist, and I think that one of the reasons why that is partly is because people voted Corbyn because they think and people voted Theresa May in the same way. They think Corbyn is going to bring about heaven on earth, that socialism will make heaven on earth, that we will all live perfect lives, nobody will get sick, everything will be great. And I think the same issue is with capitalism. People who are right wing also think the same thing. If we had a totally right wing government where everybody could afford the healthcare that they need and the healthcare would be great, it would be heaven on earth and everything would be fantastic. But the truth is that you can never get heaven on earth, and socialism and capitalism both have huge problems and flaws, which is something people seem to have forgot this election.
Well, the whole thing just makes me think, and during this whole process, I was just thinking, personally, you know, it's an election regarding the United Kingdom and the leadership of the United Kingdom, but I am of an entirely separate kingdom, and it just is not my concern in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the point me and my dad have been talking about recently, actually, that, like, and kind of something I want to bring up about the podcast as well, we don't need to concern ourselves with civilian issues. We're in the army of God, you know? And so to a certain degree, we just don't need to talk about this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel Paul in Acts 17, the way he talks to... if you're a non-Christian listening now, this is just going to be like a whole different world. But in Acts 17, Paul talks to the Greeks. Is it the Greeks?
Bereans?
I think it might be the... can't remember, but not the Bereans. I know. Paul talks to the Greeks from the Pantheon, and the way that he speaks to them is that he uses their worldview, he uses their gods, he uses their issues, and then later in that he talks to the Romans. And he uses their gods, their issues, and things like that.
He's a Roman to the Romans, a Greek to the Greeks, sort of thing. A Jew to the Jews, yeah.
Yeah, so he used their world to talk to them, and I think there's a value in that.
Yeah, that's a good point, you know. Yeah.
Which is partly, I think, why it's important to have a Christian voice on some of these issues, even though you're right, they are totally futile at the end of the day. But it's still important to meet people on the issues that on that they are concerned with, rather than just hitting them over the head with the Bible. Although that does
That's
work.
always fun as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
Yeah.
Give them a good clobbering, like.
Yeah, it's got to be a heavy one, a study Bible, like
Plenty of notes pages.
red
Yeah.
letter and all.
Yeah. Because why does the red ink add more weight to the pages?
No,
I never
it hides the blood.
Oh, right.
Oh dear.
That was a good one. I enjoyed that.
Actually, you know what? I've just had a thought. It actually means that you can't see the words of Jesus when you get it all bloodstained.
Mate, I've got them stained on my heart, fam.
Yeah. Throw the paper aside. He's in here.
I've got a controversial thought for you guys. You ready? This was something that this is why the sermon this morning was really divisive in the church. I was asking people, what did you think? Some people were like, oh, it was amazing. And other people were like, seriously, one guy genuinely said to me, and I'm not joking, he genuinely said to me, I am never going to speak to that preacher ever again. And I know, really hugely divisive. And one of the issues he was talking about was Christian leaders, and he talked about Psalm 2. And in Psalm 2 it says that God will crush any king that doesn't submit himself to God. And I think that's something we as Christians should be hopeful for.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that people will be literally crushed, any atheist, but what I mean is God will have the last laugh at the end of the day. And I think if you look through history, I mean, he was saying Kim Jong-un's going to fall, and he even said some very interesting things about David Cameron. And he was like, David Cameron, when he brought in policies that were contrary to God, David Cameron fell immediately after losing the election. He resigned. And then he gave another example of somebody who'd resigned. And he said, and he said, and he's right. People who built their platforms and anti-Christian values will fall eventually, which is very hopeful, I think. Because we've been talking about how society is kind of falling and how society is abandoning God, but eventually God will have. If you think of Hillary Clinton, Yeah. Hillary Clinton had one of the most anti-God campaigns ever, and she lost. She lost in a spectacular fashion. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It gives us hope. It gives us hope for the Queen, to be honest. See the Queen having another 50 years being the
I'm on board with that. I want the Queen to take over Parliament. Mate.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Just to see it happen. Like, I don't even know if it would be a good or a bad thing. I just want it to happen.
Mate, it would be mint. Imagine this, right? You see the news story, breaking news, being outside of Parliament with Royal Guard, and she's on like a white horse, and she's like, "You got," she's like, "You are dissolved," and then she goes back to her thing, and then she makes all these new laws. I'd be on board with that.
Wasn't there they had a TV show, didn't they? Where there was like it was a TV show about someone in the royal family now, it was Prince Charles, I think.
Right.
They did a TV show. It was obviously fiction, where he went in and he dissolved Parliament and became like the leader, and it was just all about him. I kind of want to watch it now because
I want to watch that. That sounds sick.
I was thinking, but it was really like emotional as well. There was bits where he was like drinking and it was like he was tearing the royal family apart and all this. And I was thinking like, could you
Wonder
imagine?
if you watched it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Can you imagine if they've watched this and they've seen like, what if this is like actually what Charlie's gonna do, like later on down the line?
Mate, I want him to. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sick of. We need a political shake-up, which is partly why I voted for Corbyn. And I would love it if the Queen showed up one day and was like, "All right, gang, time to get a move on."
I just wish I lived in Maidenhead, me.
You wish you knew about Buckethead before the election.
Yeah. I'm all for Lord Buckethead, me.
Yeah.
I don't think we haven't talked about him yet, have we?
Tell us about him.
Who, me?
I'm ready to learn.
So Lord Buckethead.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go, Jake. You're better at explaining things.
That's a stretch. Right, well, Lord Buckethead is from Maidenhead, and, he actually ran, and he got like 249 votes in the election. Obviously,
that's more than I
didn't get a seat. Well, yeah, he got more than me. He obviously didn't get a seat, but he did hit a new bucket record, I think he described it as.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd like to... We were talking about this before. Like, I'd quite like to know if he actually has a set of policies and if he's got a real philosophy behind his running for Prime Minister. like, I don't. It, like, there's always been these joke ones around, but for some reason, this guy actually got a fair amount of votes.
I think he's doing it to be a protest vote, isn't he? He's
Right.
making light of sort of protest voting. I mean, I saw a poster, one of his posters, and it did have along the bottom the strongest protest vote in the galaxy. And it was just, yeah, it was really, really cool.
That's funny.
Yeah. It's like something out of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Even visually, it looks like something
Yeah.
that you'd see in it.
It is insane. I might put a link in the YouTube in the description for the music video that we just watched with him, because that was quite
Yeah.
fun as well.
Yeah.
I think it's good, these stories, isn't it? Because it really makes light of an election, which always makes us so divided.
Yeah.
The picture of him stood next to
Theresa May.
Theresa May, and
It's
people were
fantastic.
saying, yeah, and people were saying stuff like, you know, given its current state, it was quite good of Theresa May to take a photograph next to her soul and stuff like that.
That's pretty funny.
Oh man, I'd like to. I really wish we lived in a world where more people. Oh, imagine a world where he'd have got elected as MP of Maidenhead. Wow, that would have been an interesting world we lived in.
That would be mad.
It'd be pretty sick, I think. Actually, I mean, yeah, I think it'd be quite cool. I'd like that to happen.
But do you know what party he was registered, or was he an independent?
Independent, I think.
Oh, okay. Doesn't surprise me, to be honest. Well, actually, that reminds me. In Ukraine, in the last presidential election, they had Darth Vader, which was just some guy dressed as Darth Vader who called
No
himself
way.
Darth Vader on the ballot box. Yeah,
This
Apparently
is
you
in Ukraine,
got-
did you say?
yeah, in Ukraine. Apparently, he got a few thousand votes as well.
No way.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm surprised
he's
that you
beaten the
can-
bucket record, like.
I'm surprised that
Yeah.
you can run in an election as a copyrighted character.
Well, I think nobody. I think it's Ukraine.
Oh yeah,
I don't think. I don't think that George Lucas cared too much
Yeah.
about it.
free publicity, innit?
Imagine
Yeah,
that,
that's
like,
true.
If, like, imagine that George Lucas's face when he saw that in Ukraine, Darth Vader was the president of Ukraine. That would be
That would be
insane.
amazing. Well, they have a boxer as their as the mayor of Kiev now.
Yeah, it's Thingy's brother, innit?
No,
Uh,
it's a boxer dog.
A boxer dog?
Sorry, what?
Yeah, it's a dog.
What?
No, it's not really.
Oh, yeah, I'm thinking of Vladimir Klitschko's brother, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I've forgotten his name.
Well, I know what his surname is.
I can't believe you
Yeah.
actually had me on there. That was so convincing. That
You're welcome. Oh, it's Vitaly Klitschko.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dolly Klitschko.
yeah. They love him over there. They do.
Well, if he's anything like Vladimir, I quite like old Vladimir. He's a very good sport.
I've virtually never watched him play ever.
Did you not watch the Anthony Joshua Klitschko fight?
I don't watch boxing. I get too
It-
bored.
I'm-
Tanya
I'm-
likes it.
I'm not a fan of boxing per se. I do like. I did really enjoy that fight, and I like watching Anthony Joshua. UFC's where it's at in terms of fights, but this, if you get a chance to watch the Anthony Joshua Vladimir Klitschko fight, it was a really good boxing match.
Mm.
I mean, only if you like boxing, I suppose. But yeah, it's a good match.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like one of the highest profile boxing matches as well. It was in Wembley, and they sold out Wembley in a boxing match. Do you know how unprecedented that is?
Is it? I don't know how
Yeah.
unprecedented that is.
It's mental.
How unprecedented is it?
Very.
It's unprecedented, mate. That's how unprecedented it is.
Yeah.
Wow. Is this live streaming now?
Yeah. We're going live.
Where is
doing
it
it
live
live.
streaming?
On
Is it on YouTube? On Twitch? I couldn't find it when I had a look.
I'll link you.
We're doing it live. Yeah,
doing
that was Bill Riley, wasn't it?
I've got no idea. I just know the words. I don't actually. I've just heard it done by people. I don't actually have the reference.
Bill
Are they
Riley
really-
got
Hmm?
Bill Riley got fired, didn't he?
Yes.
Who's Bill
Well,
Riley?
the sexism thing, is it?
Yeah, he got accused
Yeah.
of different stuff.
pretty dodgy.
different stuff.
Yeah, but you know, like he got accused of like sexual stuff, and I think to a degree, I think he does sound a little bit guilty of some of it, but it doesn't sound that extreme anyway. It's hard to explain.
Was Bill Riley he's a Fox News guy, was he?
Yeah, he was the host of the O'Reilly Factor.
Right.
Do you know who's a really good? Have you guys ever watched Tucker Carlson?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
like
I
him.
enjoy him.
Don't
Yeah,
think
it's
so.
fun.
I saw. I was actually listening to the H3 podcast the other day, and they were watching one of his videos while they were on there. They were talking about like he always has the same facial expression
Yeah, he did.
for every single interview that he does with like a leftist.
Yeah,
It's always
he
the
did.
same like shocked and appalled facial expression.
Yeah. I've actually I've got an idea for something that we should do sometime. It'd be good to do like a reaction to something somebody says. Like I was watching Mr. Robot the other day, and there's a scene in that where basically Elliot from Mr. Robot, he has been he goes to this church group thing as part of his rehabilitation because he's a drug addict and he's in prison and all of that. And then there's this one point where he goes on this rant.
About God, I remember that.
Oh, you've seen it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
He
seen that
goes
too.
on this rant, and I was listening to it like, if I was there with him, man, the stuff I would have loved to have said to that guy.
I know it's always, and the thing is, the lay person in regards to God and sort of the philosophy behind it, they would just sit there and be like, oh yeah, that's a good point. And then they might say that to one of their friends, and their friends will be like, oh yeah, that's a good point. If you know anything about it, it's just shallow,
Yeah.
like really, really shallow.
Yeah.
And I want to know what it is, that causes that to happen. People just accept that.
Yeah, it happens so much in TV nowadays. And like, I'd actually like to quote something for you that that played a part in my dissertation.
Oh,
There
do
was
it.
a quote that I found. Well, I'm going to paraphrase because I can't actually find the quote, but it was something of the likes of like, it's a worry of the person that I'm quoting that the only people that the only Jesus that so many people will know is the Jesus that's portrayed on TV screens. Like, for so many people, they'll hear these really basic and easily refuted arguments about God, and they'll just be like, yeah, that's a good point. Like, I can't think of any way to deal with that kind of accusation. I guess that must be a total defeater of Christianity.
Yeah.
Without engaging in like an actual dialogue, it's so easy for a script writer to convince so many people that Christianity has no foundation at all.
I
Yeah.
think it's the same in Doctor. Have you guys seen the new Doctor Who episodes?
No, don't watch
My
it.
gosh, every single episode is so rubbish. Every single episode is, hey, this is Bill. She's the new companion. She's gay. She does a gay thing. Okay.
Right.
Now I'm gonna have a go at God, and the argument against God's always so stupid. And then it's like, and now I'm gonna have a go at Trump. And then they have a sly dig at Trump, which doesn't make any sense because he's supposed to be an alien in outer space. And then it's like, okay, and now it's the end,
Yeah.
and it's just so
Yeah.
rubbish.
He's a time lord. He's experienced most of the human race's timeline, and yet he's only just realised about Trump.
Yeah.
Where was your Trump criticism back in 2005, eh?
Or in medieval times, he could have been saying it in medieval times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's so
There's this Trump guy in
stupid.
100 years. He's an idiot.
Yeah. Oh man, it's just the writing on Doctor Who has become way too political, and it's so rubbish. I used to love Doctor Who. That's why I got into media in the first place, was because of Doctor Who.
Really?
And now now I watch it, and it's just such a disappointment and a letdown. And even the fans know that. Even the hardcore fans that used to defend it know that this season is not good. Well, the last few seasons have not been good. I think partly it's this anti-Trump. Everybody thinks that this freedom writer that's anti-Trump and they're going to save the world from this tyrannical guy, and it's like, give me a break.
It's just such a shame that it's such a sort of it shouldn't work that as a tool for it should be that they could just make one statement, one like really shallow argument, and just because people have never heard any other arguments, they'll just be like, yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
like,
it's a shame. Like,
surely it goes without saying that like if you're looking for a worldview, you should start by like looking for contradictory arguments to to the current consensus that you're on, the current worldview that you're on. That should be your starting point.
This is why we should do react videos, Like when the Bernie Sanders thing dropped, we should have been like, why is this stupid? Okay, this is why this is a stupid thing to do. This is why he was ill-informed. Do you know what I'm saying?
I'm down. But I mean, to be fair, we could just implement that as a kind of thing in the podcast. Like, I could just play the video.
Yeah, that'd be
like,
good.
What
we can just
what
talk
was
about it.
stupid this week?
Yeah. How did the media try to attack God this week?
Yeah, well, in this story.
We'll have to call it Derp of the Week, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Derp of the Week. Derp of the Week this week is undoubtedly Bernie Sanders,
Yeah.
and it was a big derp indeed.
Yeah, we can do
Yeah.
contestants and like
Yeah,
decide which one was the
that'd be
derpiest.
so funny.
yeah. We should have a derp chart.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So
he's way off the derp chart on this one. That's a big derp.
That's a good idea. What would you give Bernie out of 10 on the derp chart today?
I would. It's one seismic derp. That's all I'll say.
Seismic. Yeah. Yeah. Well, is that above or below colossal though? That's the
Oh, I don't know. Like, there's one thing we can be sure of though.
it's a derp.
Go on.
It's a derp.
What do you guys think the most colossal derp in this context you've ever seen is in living memory? I mean,
In living memory.
well,
Oh,
I'm-
I think Bill Nye's got a couple of them.
Oh,
Oh man, whoa, that guy is a sausage.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I saw a thing pointed out about him, how he was like, oh man, like back like 10 years ago when he was talking about gender,
Yeah, that was
compared to now
hilarious.
when he's talking about gender. Oh, gender's a sliding scale. It's all over the place. It's wherever you want it to be. Gender's like if you get a bit of jelly in a Tupperware box and kick it around a room for a while.
gender's a four-dimensional graph.
Yeah.
It was so unbelievably silly that
I
gender
saw
thing.
a meme of that where it was like the top photo was like the old one where it was like gender is defined by your chromosomes XX and XY, and then it's
Yeah.
like money handing over from one hand to another,
Yeah,
and then like gender is on a spectrum.
Oh man, that was a derp. And when Bill Nye tried, it was a derp, man. Oh, what a derp. That was derpzilla. That was, yeah. And another, in my opinion, like a more cataclysmic derp was when Bill Nye like suddenly like woke up one morning and fancied himself a philosopher.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
No.
He was trying to say that philosophy was like, I can't remember exactly what it was that he was saying, but he was just trying to say that philosophy was basically a useless
Oh,
discipline
right.
and stuff like this, which I'd like to point out is a philosophy in itself. Thanks very
Yeah.
much.
It was right after
Well-
Stephen Hawking's book when he started off by saying philosophy is dead, and then proceeded to use philosophical arguments throughout
To
the book.
explain why philosophy is dead. It's people like this is C.S. Lewis talks about this as well. I talk a lot about stuff that C.S. Lewis talks about. I realise this, but he hits the nail on the head really. When someone can be an expert in science, it doesn't make them an expert in anything else but science.
Yeah.
It's a totally different discipline. If you want to learn about philosophy from philosophers.
Yeah.
And if you want to learn about science from scientists. But I don't understand why people are holding up books of atheists like Stephen Hawking and Richard Dawkins, and yet again not looking for any counter arguments.
Mm-hmm. This is something that William Lane Craig talks about a lot. It's like it's defines it as scientism, where it's the belief that like science is the only path to actual knowledge, even though science relies on pure logic and philosophy anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much relies on philosophy. I think broad philosophy is probably the most important discipline in the modern world.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
would actually say that, and it's breezed over, and everyone thinks that it's like some pointless thing, and like,
Yeah.
I mean the you know, the thing when Bill Nye was talking about it, he was saying, "Oh yeah, you know, asking questions like you know, if I dropped a hammer on my foot, would it hurt?" and stuff like that. Or I can't remember what it was he actually said, but he was using actual like philosophical things. Clearly didn't understand what they were, you know, saying, "Oh, I think therefore I am," and all of this, not understanding what it actually means.
It would have been. I was. I've got a bit of hope for you though. You know the Bill Nye thing you were talking about, and especially the song "My Sex Junk," which was maybe the cringiest moment of 2017.
I
I
don't
think.
think I've seen that.
I don't think I've
Oh,
seen that.
you've not seen the song?
Let's play it live. No,
Yeah,
let's actually not.
No, seriously. Do you guys just go on YouTube, experience it for 1 second? I promise you, it'll be worth it.
All right,
I
hang
promise
on.
you.
It's gonna come live over the stream, but I'll cut it out of the recording for copyright reasons.
Oh yeah,
All
do
right.
it.
What's it called? Sorry.
The actual song. I'm trying to find the original video, but the actual song is called "My Sex Junk," from Bill Nye Saves the World is his new show. It's hard to find stuff that isn't rants about it, but the actual clip itself.
So at this point in the recording and streaming of the podcast, I played this song in question from Bill Nye's show, My Sex Junk, or something like that. There's a link in the description, but I can't include it in the actual video. We do talk about this stuff while we're streaming it live, and you can hear it on there as we're talking about it. So if you do want to hear that kind of stuff, then you can come and watch us live on Twitch. If not, you can check the links in the description. I'll make sure that I include all the links from any time I need to cut something out. So anyway, back to the podcast. That is lewd.
Yeah. Do you know what the number one liked? So I watched this video, and it was at the time the number one liked comments on the video, on the Sex Junk video.
Mm.
And there's a lot of hope there, because the number one liked comment on the whole video was, "We were wrong. Society needs God." Seriously.
Was
and
it
then
actually?
people were commenting things like, "Wow, I really need to go to church," and stuff like that. It was really bizarre.
That's crazy.
Really interesting.
On
Yeah,
YouTube?
and hopeful. Yeah, on YouTube it
That's
was.
mental.
That is completely unexpected.
Almost even if
Yeah.
people were just joking, there's always truth in a joke like that.
Yeah, really interesting, isn't it? Like how
Yeah.
how the reaction was, I think, to such a far left, such a
Because
far
it's
left liberal.
so, it's no matter where you look at it, it's so debased and just like corrupt. It's just
Yeah.
absolutely corrupt.
The ice cream one is hilariously awful.
I think I have
So
seen
basically-
that one, actually.
Yeah, I'll give you just a quick rundown. What happens is there are all these ice cream flavors, and then there's vanilla, and vanilla is supposed to be the conservative Christian, and then vanilla is like, everybody needs to be vanilla like me, and you have like mint chocolate chip who's like, but I'm mint chocolate chip, and then chocolate's like, no, I'm chocolate, and all this, and then the vanilla's like, no, you all need to be vanilla, and then it's supposed to be like somebody telling everybody you should all be straight people. Do you know what I mean? And then it's like, you all need to be vanilla, and it's like, but what if I don't want to be vanilla? What if I'm more like whatever, and then in the end what happens is the ice creams tempt him to come over to their side, and then what happens is vanilla is then involved in this horrible ice cream orgy, which is supposed to be a
Don't
good
tell
thing.
me it becomes a Neapolitan like.
Yeah, it does. That's the joke.
Oh goodness
That
me!
we'd all be happier if we were all just having sex all the time and there were no boundaries or rules or anything like that. And you know, the last thing vanilla says is, "Oh Lord, please help me, great ice cream in the sky, because this tastes good." And then he jumps into the ice cream orgy. So it's obvious what they were trying to hint at here.
That's
And then Bill
horrendous.
says, and then Bill stands back. This is not a joke. He stands back and he's like, "So that's why being gay is okay," and all this stuff. And I was like, "What? On what level have you made a scientific argument here? You've made an analogy which doesn't work, and you're trying to... oh, it's just ridiculous. It made me really angry. That
It's just
really
mental.
ridiculous.
And again, people love it. People love stuff like that.
I don't understand who that's supposed to be aimed at.
Well, he
Like, what is
claimed... He claimed the show was aimed at people who disagree with him, which is one of the most laughable things I've ever read.
So it's like, I guess it's designed to be for people at least the age of 16 or something. Even
Well,
though
it's-
they're using
yeah.
cartoons with ice creams.
Yeah, it's weird. I think it's definitely an element of it is indoctrination. What do you guys think? Do you think we like? Have you seen the Queer Kids TV show as well?
No.
Man, pray for those guys. It's horrific what they're trying to teach kids over there
Yeah.
about the nature of reality. My God.
Yeah, and like
I'm homeschooling my kids.
Pe-
Like,
I'm thinking about it.
I don't know if I'm gonna homeschool kids often end up a bit strange.
That's kind of true.
It is
yeah, I mean,
if you look at any videos of homeschool kids or anything like that, I
I mean,
don't know.
it's strange by the standards of people who've been in normal schools, though, right?
Yeah,
Were you homeschooled, Jake?
No.
No, me either.
I don't know. Whenever I've not trying to hate on homeschool kids, but I think on a social level, I've seen differences in homeschool kids that I think would be better if they, it makes me think that being schooled around other kids is better, even if you're taught things, that aren't true. I mean, I was taught things that aren't true at the end of the day, and like
Yeah.
you can't get away from lies at the end of the day. But
True.
I don't know.
It's an interesting way of looking at it. But at the end of the day, like, if you take evolution as a controversial example, if you told somebody at work you didn't believe in evolution, what do you reckon the reaction would be?
Well, a lot of them would call you an idiot.
Yeah, exactly. And it's taught in school, but it's not as concrete as it's made out to be.
Yeah.
It's definitely not.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the thing. Whenever like people say, "Oh, yeah," like it was one of the things people were saying about the DUP is like, "Oh, this guy was saying that creationism should be taught in schools." It's like, well, what right do you have to say that creationism is less valid to be taught in schools than evolution? I mean,
Okay.
I don't know if I would straight up consider myself a creationist.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know. I've not thought about it enough to say to put myself in that bracket, if that makes sense. But as
Yeah.
it stands, I don't really I don't believe in evolution. I don't know if that makes me a creationist or not. But yeah,
It makes you a bigot, sexist, homophobe.
it makes me a retarded, bigot, sexist, homophobe derp. Is what it makes me.
Day of the week. Ollie Bullard.
It's Ollie Bullard.
Derp of the week. Ollie Bullard doesn't believe that we all come from a soup that was struck by lightning.
Wow.
What
I'm
an
gonna
idiot.
link you later on. I'll link you a video from Kent Hovind, who goes into a lot of a lot of scientific reasons why
Who?
Kent Hovind.
Okay.
He's
I'll
a
have to-
Christian. He goes
yeah,
into
I'll
a
have to
lot of
watch it.
scientific reasons why evolution just simply doesn't work. It's literally called evolution is stupid, and he just
Yeah.
explains why.
Have you ever seen Ken Ham?
Yeah, I've seen Ken Ham.
What do you
yeah.
think of Ken Ham?
I saw him.
He debated
I
Bill
think
Nye once.
Yeah, I think he's a very respectful guy. I think he's very nice. I think he makes a lot of good points. I wouldn't necessarily throw myself in with the guy, but I definitely find him interesting. But do you know who once appeared on a debate, a Christian debate thing with Ken Ham?
Who?
Ray Comfort. And did you know that Ray Comfort, like Ken Ham, is a 6-day creationist?
Really?
I did not know that. Yeah, interested me quite a bit.
It doesn't surprise me, to be honest.
Mm.
It doesn't surprise me because he's a Jew, isn't he? So
Is he? Oh yeah, of course he is.
yeah, he is. So, something about him being a Jew means that it makes more sense to me. I think for him to be
Yeah.
a creationist. I don't know what exactly that is, but well, I guess
Yeah, I've just realised I don't understand what that is.
well, no, because I guess in Jewish theology it would have been a 6-day creation. I suppose that would be why.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. The thing that struck me about Ken Ham was that he makes very good points. He's just not a very talented debater, and I think that works to his detriment quite a lot.
Hmm.
Like when he debated
Mr. Nye.
Mr. Nye, it was clear to me that Mr. Nye was a better debater. But if you can strip away rhetoric, which I think is a really important thing to be able to do, a lot of the points that you were making were much better and much more founded on sort of
Yeah.
really, really interesting fact or really interesting studies and things like that.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I didn't really know that. I didn't think about that.
What's
Well,
that?
the fact that it's detrimental to him that he isn't a very good debater, which I think is true. 'Cause
Yeah, I think if when you're watching him, if you sort of consider the fact that he's not particularly good at debating, but just think about what he's saying with that in mind, it's
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll agree. There's a very good case for both, no matter how you cut the cheese. You know, I can understand both.
I remember in that debate they spoke about the Ark, and he was like, "Well, what about all the different types of dogs that you've got?" And he makes the point where before the Ark there could easily have been just one type of dog.
Yeah,
Because in living memory, we have lots of breeds of dogs that never used to exist like 200 years ago.
that's true.
And they could be drastically different.
Well, that's is it microevolution?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
microevolution, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And that's
everybody's on
something
board
that's
with that.
observable. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
well, not everyone, but I am.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's clear that you can breed an animal to change itself physically. But you like the expression is you can make a dog as small as a Chihuahua and you can make a dog as big as a Great Dane, but you can't make a dog smaller than Chihuahua and you can't make a dog bigger than a Great Dane, and you definitely can't make a dog a cat. And I think, and it's like they've done experiments, haven't they? And they bred 40,000 generations of mayflies to desperately try and make it into a different animal, and all they ended up with was a bunch of deformed mayflies.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to get very scientific now, and somebody may disagree with me, but I think the reason is because the proteins which hold the animal together, the proteins, physically can't hold enough information to make a genetic change. It's impossible, as far as we understand the way proteins work anyway. So because the proteins can't, we're assuming that it has happened millions and millions of times that have turned single-celled organisms, which are incredibly complex anyway, into us. And then that's happening, and then things, the information involved in making us should get more complex and more complex. What actually happens is it gets more complex and less than more, then less than more, then less than more. In the meantime, we're supposed to have all these different proteins forcing changes in us, and we don't even think that's possible. And that's what evolution is based on. So there are definitely a lot of problems based on it. Evolution, anyway.
I mean, on a scientific standpoint, there are, for me, before we even get onto the science, I think for anything like this, before you even get onto the science, before you even get onto the studies, just think about it on a logical basis. And, you don't even have to just think about it yourself on a logical basis. Look at what other people are saying in terms of philosophers and whether or not it makes sense. And it doesn't, even before you get onto the scientific study. And I don't
How does
know.
it not make sense?
Evolution
Yeah. Like on a logical level.
on a logical level. Well, there's many issues with it. One, for example, would be this is sort of when we take it right back to the origin in terms of like the universe making itself from nothing. I suppose you could say it's kind of linked. But I mean,
Do you mean the origin?
yeah, I guess rather than that one, because that's a bit too far off the beaten track. So something as simple as the divine watchmaker argument. It's not if you're walking on a moor and you see a pocket watch, you know straight away that it was designed because of the qualities that it has. And in DNA, you have an actual language. You have a language written. A written language, a logos.
Yeah.
And it's not something that, a comprehensible piece of information or informational transfer. It's not logical to assume that it can happen by chance, and that it gets it right every single time coherently.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's the old something from nothing argument again. Even evolutionary, like you said about maybe people didn't understand. I don't know, but you said about lightning hitting soup. That's actually because literally our current understanding of the way evolution worked was that we had a blend of chemicals that was hit by lightning, and then that somehow nobody knows how somehow provided the right energy, which
Yeah.
caused some kind of fusing of these
And the issue
molecules.
the issue is that we settle on a theory like that, and then I think because we've done that, the science is then tailored to confirm that theory. Like in the way the information is gathered and in the analysis of that information, we're setting ourselves up to interpret the information in the way that we want to.
Hmm.
There's a lot of issues with it. I mean, ultimately, in terms of the logical aspect of things, it does ultimately get down to things like fine tuning.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the fine tuning in DNA, and it's the same sort of properties in terms of the argument and the worldview. It goes all the way back to the fine tuning of the universe itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then
And
the
there's-
origins of
yeah.
life, it goes back to the origins of the universe.
And as well, we have Darwin's original problems with his theory was that, one, the fossil record. He said if the fossil record gets more complex the further you go back, then evolution can't be true, and that's exactly what happens. And another problem he had was the fact that how could he trust anything a monkey came up with? And his argument was, if I'm just a monkey, essentially, how could I trust anything a monkey ever said?
Yeah, he can't trust his own cognition to actually make the statement in the first place.
Yeah.
That would put us all in a very difficult situation, though, wouldn't it?
If it was true, do you mean?
Well, yeah, because I mean, on that statement, it's like all knowledge. It's just like meh. It's maybe like maybe not. It sort of it destroys the pursuit of truth, doesn't it?
But it has. Isn't that just exactly what's happened in society?
Well, yeah. But people think that science is like the greatest endeavour of truth, and it could be. It could be, as C.S. Lewis said, men created, and I'm paraphrasing, men created science because they expected law in nature, and they expected law in nature because they believed in a lawgiver.
Well, I think, and as well, maybe you guys could disagree with me on this, but science has become so over politicized that I am now struggling to believe a lot of scientific theories that come out, because so a scientific theory comes out that says video games are really, really bad for you, and then you find out that this was funded, because it's all got to get funded by somewhere, then you find out, oh, this was funded by Waterstones or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the same with like Coca-Cola, where funded a lot of studies that showed that energy drinks were actually really good for you, paid for by the Coca-Cola Foundation. So I think science, it's very problematic, and if I said to a university, I think I can find a new evolutionary fossil somewhere out in the Arabian desert, will you pay me to go? They would go, yeah, we'll do that, let's go. But if I was like, oh, actually, I think I might have found evidence that the evolutionary record doesn't make sense, but if you guys could just pay for me to rearrange it in a way that I think would be logical, but it would show it didn't make sense, would that be okay? And then they'd say, absolutely not, we can't fund that. So
Yeah.
we're living in a very problematic time for those things.
It's, I mean, one of the first things you're taught if you ever do statistics in school is about how easy it is to manipulate data to look the way you want it to,
Yeah.
without actually changing the data.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that people don't really talk about is that science does inherently depend on people having a code
On
of ethics.
interpretation, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's got to be interpreted by somebody.
And that's where it all
right.
comes back to philosophy again.
Science doesn't provide the foundation to say that a scientist should be honest about the results that he's found, and not just forward what he thinks should be the results based on his agenda.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
It's a tough one, though, isn't it? We live in
I
a
mean,
tough situation.
yeah, you run into that issue anytime a scientist tries to make any truth claim, really, as well.
Yeah.
What's the value of the claim that he's even making in his own worldview?
Doesn't it require faith as well? Does that make science a false god in society?
It's an
Well,
interesting
yeah.
idea.
I think I think if science, I mean, we've talked about scientism a little bit, but if science is a religion now, I mean, it certainly has some of the tenets of religious faith. It has an origin story. It has, evolution. It doesn't back up all of its claims, which is synonymous with obviously false religions. It has an idea of dissonance. If you don't think like we do, if you don't believe what we do, then there must be something wrong with you. It certainly has some traits of a cult. I think.
What you've got to do, as old Ravi says, is you've got to bring it back to 4 questions: the question of origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. So they as far as they are aware, have satisfied origin and perhaps destiny, or they're trying on that one, but the rest is it's so lackluster.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting, because as soon as you said that, I was like, well, in science, morality means nothing. It's totally, there is no morality. It's just atoms clinging against each other.
But every one of us will claim to be a moral being, and to operate on a moral basis. But science just has no foundation on which to actually do that, and so they borrow from us. And it's again, it comes back to people want all the good things about Christianity, but they don't want any of the things that they currently perceive to be the bad things. That later on you find out they're actually probably even better than the things you thought were the good things before.
Yeah, that's a good point. We just live in a fundamentally broken world, don't we? And as Christians, we're always going to be the ones nobody likes. It's an upside down world. The people this is one of the things that gets me about the church that I've been going to at the moment. Is it's all, there's such a emphasis on image and looking cool and trendy. We're not here to look cool. Yeah.
Jesus wasn't he wasn't trendy. Do you know what I mean?
Well, so you went to a church, didn't you, which had a very cool image. Would you say that was detrimental to their core running as a church then?
I don't think it's detrimental to their success as a church in terms of numbers.
Right.
It was detrimental to my opinion of the church. I don't know if that's an issue with the church or with me. But I don't know, when it made me miss Christchurch in a lot of ways, just because of how, I don't know, I could just see Jesus being there a lot easier. If I picture it, I could see Jesus being there so much easier than being at Kingsgate.
So, what do you think? I mean, there was a quote. I think it was Leonard Ravenhill. No, I can't remember who it was by. There was a quote which was, the church today is filled with people that love a God they don't know very much. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's definitely an element of capitalism, Sod's Gang, where capitalism dictates that if you can do something quicker, if you can do something as fast and as efficient and as flashy as possible, then you can beat the competition. And I think churches are now trying to compete with Starbucks and stuff. And it's not the way churches should be, in essence.
They shouldn't be trying to compete at all.
Yeah.
With anything.
Well, that's the thing. Do you guys think whenever a church gets planted in a church in the town where I'm living, it's always a bit but there are 7 churches here. Why can't you just help a church that's already here?
Yeah.
Why do you have it doesn't make any sense.
I don't like it when I see churches that seem to make decisions based on how many more members it's going to get them.
Yeah,
I don't think a church should be concerned in any way, shape or form with the amount of members it's got.
No, I agree. Somebody, I mean, this is getting personal now, so bear with me. Somebody was telling me, because they've started a ministry, and they were telling me how it really sucked because they had low numbers. They considered 13 people to be low, and every single
13.
week I spoke to them. Yeah, every single week I spoke to them.
Yeah, more than Jesus had.
Yeah, that's true. every week I spoke to them, they would say to me like, "Oh, we really want more people. Oh, we're so good. We really want more people. We really want more people." And
It's crazy.
I remember just saying to them like, "Well, when I was in CU, the numbers went from 3 to 25 to 7," and I said when we were 25, we saw nobody got saved, but when we were at the numbers of 7, we saw 3 people get saved. And we were 7. There were 7 people in CU, like at 3 separate occasions, and it was only when we had a regular attendance of 7 that we actually saw anybody get saved. There's
Yeah.
value in that.
I remember when I was there, it was always the small meetings
Yeah.
that were really good, and like I don't know, yeah, I totally see what you're saying there.
Mm.
I mean, for me, all I would say to a person, that has that attitude is one is enough. One.
Yeah.
God could have planned for your birth, right? Knowing that you would be there, and just make that one person understand.
Yeah, that's totally true. I think there's a quote by a pastor who talks about numbers, but I can't remember what it is. But the essence of it is, if you're focusing on numbers, you're not focusing on God.
Yeah,
And I think that's a good point.
It's like Ravi Zacharias. He was like, before he became a Christian, he became a Christian on, as he puts it, a bed of suicide.
Yeah.
A guy came into to his hospital and gave him a what's that Bible called? That type of Bible. Oh, I can't remember the name.
A Gideon's Bible.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, gave him a Gideon's Bible, and years later, I think the guy's dead now. That actually came to him and brought him to Christ. He said to him over the phone, Ravi, sometimes I think that the only reason I was put on this earth was to give you that Gideon's Bible. And it's so true. That one person, like, has had such a huge effect.
Yeah.
Just
true.
by the fact that he gave Ravi Zacharias a Gideon's Bible when he tried to commit suicide.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? That's amazing.
On the topic of like numbers of a church as well, the Francis Chan sometimes talks about like how Jesus never clambered for people to follow him. Like he had the 12
It's so
people
true.
who were with him all the time. Like the first time he got up to speak, he said he gave the parable of the sower. He was like, some seed falls on the on the rocks and it doesn't grow at all. Some seed falls in the thorns and it gets strangled when it's just little. And some seed falls on the good ground and it flowers, and then it's taken up by the harvester. And he's like, if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you don't. And that's it. That's the whole thing. And then it's just the 12 disciples that come to him and they're like, what did it mean? And he's like, yeah, because yous are supposed to use care. Yous are here and asking because you're the ones that are supposed to try and understand. The rest of these, they're just not going to do it. And then like the second time he gets up, he says, if you don't hate your own mother and father, your brothers and sisters, even your own life, you're not worthy of following me. That is not meant to make the Christian life sound all happy lappy. He's just giving them the brutal reality of it.
And do you know what it comes back to again? The way that you prioritize truth and people's feelings.
Yeah.
Again, Jesus did not care about people's feelings if it meant it was going to get in the way of the truth. In fact, I don't know if he cared about people's feelings at all that much.
Yeah. The actually, on that same vein, I'll quickly plug a gift ministry on YouTube. One of the videos that I put up on there with the ISIS versus the Westboro Baptist Church one. Someone came up and asked me, was saying like, do you really think this is promoting like peace between like the West and Islam? And I said, yeah, but it's not like there's none of my opinion in here. All of this is just facts. All of it's just truthful.
Yeah.
And it's all just like, it's not meant to inspire hate. If someone gets this and feels bad, feels hateful about it, then that's their fault.
Who cares if the truth isn't promoting peace? The truth is the truth.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter if it promotes peace.
It doesn't matter what the
At
truth
all.
says if it's true.
Yeah. People, it's like people are taking the truth and acting like it's another person with another opinion. The
Yeah.
truth is always right.
Yeah, exactly. The truth is always right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And people are sat there arguing with it.
it's because we live in a post-truth society.
Yeah.
It's dumb. That's what it is.
I think as well, Jesus was always respectful, you know? Like, he
Yeah.
spoke the truth, but he wasn't a sausage about it. Do you know what I mean? And I think there's a temptation. I mean, there's always I see this a lot in the conservative, because obviously the youth conservative movement is really massive right now. They've basically taken over online. And I think even though they have a lot of facts and figures, they're certainly not loving about it. You know,
Yeah.
they're not respectful to people.
I
And,
agree.
and
So
I think... Sorry,
he-
carry on.
Sorry, you carry on.
No, no,
I
no,
actually
carry on.
interrupted you.
No, I've said what I
Right.
needed to.
It's an interesting point. However, I would make the point. What basis do you go on to discern whether or not you or someone else has acted in a respectful way? So, like, if I'm deciding to say something about God to someone, and I'm like, right, I need to do this in a respectful way, and then they end up offended by what I've said, does that mean I have conducted myself in an unrespectful way?
Yeah, I suppose respect is one of those things that's just subjective.
It's just purely about intention. If you're trying your best to be respectful, that doesn't mean that everyone is going to be okay with what you're saying. And if you look at some of the things that Jesus said, like the woman at the well, like, you know, if I went up and tried that with someone around here, I would get hit. I would get slapped. Do you know what I mean? It's not necessarily about being construed as respectful to others.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the best way that you can respect and love a person is by being really harsh with them.
Yeah, I mean Jesus when he's talking to the Pharisees at one point towards the
Yeah,
end of his life,
brood
he's
of
like,
vipers,
brood
man.
of vipers. You're like whitewashed tombs.
Yeah,
You look all nice on the outside, but inside you're just full of dead stuff.
yeah. He's not disrespecting them. He's just telling the truth.
Yeah. I agree with you as well. It's just that it's hard to. I mean, maybe you guys disagree. I don't know. But it's hard to discern sometimes between when it's right to be delicate and when it's right to
Yeah.
be bold. I guess
It is. At the end of the day, you're never going to get it right all of the time, and you've just got to try your best.
Yes, that's true.
You've just got to try your best and try and be as motivated by the spirit as you possibly can be. You know.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And also, you know, again, the best example to follow is that of Jesus. Just ask what Jesus would do.
Mm.
So it's like, yeah,
What-
it's
Yeah. What do you say to somebody? I mean, this is going way off topic, but bear with me because we've been off topic for a while now.
Yeah.
What do you get? What would you guys say to somebody who said, I'm just referencing somebody, something that somebody said to me. What would you do if somebody said to you, I can't believe in Jesus because I don't believe God would let these bad things happen? And here's the thing. I did explain to this person, well, to say they are bad in the first place means you acknowledge that there is good in the world.
yeah.
But that wasn't enough for this person.
Well, and
So I
then,
was just
and
wondering-
then you go down the route of the moral lawgiver route. Do you mean?
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
I mean, what's another way you could speak to somebody
Right.
who said
See,
that?
the thing about that answer is that it's probably that's probably my favourite way of answering that. However, it's not emotionally satisfying in any way. It's never.
But it is an emotional question.
Yeah, and it is an emotional question. I like that way of answering it because of how true it is. But the only people that are ever going to take heed to that answer are people that aren't, you know, laypersons in terms of logic and in terms of philosophy
Yeah.
already. You know,
Yeah.
I think the thing you've got to make people aware that the God of the Bible experiences pain with you.
Hmm.
He's not you know, he's not somewhere other than that. I mean, he is somewhere other than that pain, but he's not absent of that pain, you know.
Hmm.
And I think that's really important. And I think as well, people blame God for everything, totally forgetting, you know, that within the Judeo-Christian framework, the devil exists as well. You know, people pay the devil no attention when they say things like that.
It was Ravi Zacharias, I think, wasn't it? Or perhaps it was John. What's his name? The Irish
Lennox.
John Lennox.
John Lennox,
Lennox.
yeah.
That said, everyone seems to give God all the blame for all the bad things that happen, but people seem to forget that there's an evil one as well, a
Yeah.
deceiver.
It's like, yeah, when people say, well, where was God here? Where was God here? He wasn't necessarily there, but I know who might have been.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, he might not have. I don't know. But people just totally forget about Satan. And the other thing is, people. But another part of it is that we are, as a race, we are so unwilling to own up to our own sort of responsibilities. So the state that the climate is in, and any ill happenings that come about because of that, they're not God's fault. They're ours.
That's
You know?
true.
The cancer rates rising. It's not God's fault. It's ours. We breathe toxic air that we've made toxic. We eat toxic food that we have made toxic. We drink toxic water that we have made toxic, and we live on toxic soil that we have made toxic. It's our fault. It's not God's fault. God provided it to us in a perfectly good condition. Do you know what I mean? And we've done that to it, and then we're living in the consequences, and we don't want to own up to the to those
That is-
consequences.
That is really tough to give somebody that's hurting, though. Do you know what I mean?
It
Like,
is.
Yeah.
It is. But I don't know. You've got to.
That's the
I don't-
problem. Is there really
you've got-
a truly emotionally satisfying answer to the question of why is there evil?
Well, I put it this way, right? As a way of, I would ask you the question, right? So you're a Christian, right?
Yep.
Does that make you feel any better about child soldiers?
About child soldiers.
Yeah. Does it make you feel any
In-
better about cancer or disease? Does it make you feel any better about about the pain that happens in the world? Really?
That's
No, I
a
mean-
really tough question.
I mean, specifically, I'm probably the last person you would ask about this, to be honest.
What do you mean?
For a specific mental health reason.
Right.
Because, well, I'll be honest about it, because, I mean, I'm an open book, really. I've had psychopathic issues in the past where I just don't care about things. But when I became a Christian, that did change drastically. And now I can hardly watch, like, a charity advert without crying. So...
I had that. I yeah. It's a strange
it
phenomenon,
does,
that.
It has. So it's changed me a lot. So actually, it's made me feel more sad. Being a Christian, because I can actually, relate to these things.
Here's the thing: is that there are lots of things that are, there's actually not that many things. Some are of greater magnitude than others, but there are things that are promised in the Bible. One of them is not that we're going to spend the rest of our days feeling better about pain.
Yeah.
We can know the truth about it, and we can know the reasons behind it, and we can seek comfort in those reasons and find comfort in those reasons. But ultimately, we're not going to feel better about the situation that we are living in an absolutely broken world.
We
and
can
that
rejoice in our own suffering, though. Being able
We-
to suffer
we-
shame and pain for
we
Jesus
can.
Christ is.
we certainly can. I'm completely with you on that. I'm not. I mean, I don't think I mentioned our own pain. Our own pain is a totally separate thing
Yeah.
that I think being a Christian will make you feel better about.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't. It doesn't satisfy the sort of the element of being emotionally charged of the question, why is there pain in the world in general? And I don't necessarily think it has to,
Yeah.
because no matter what way you look at it, think death in general. We're taught now in culture to accept death. Oh, it's natural. It's just a part of life. It shouldn't be. It's completely unnatural,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel natural. So why is everyone saying it's natural?
It's a foreign body in God's
Yeah,
creation.
when it
I've
happens
never
in your
thought about
life,
it before. That's
when
insane.
when it happens in your life, it doesn't feel natural, does it? So
No.
why is everyone telling you it is?
It's
Because
not.
it's not, is it?
I usually read Revelations 21 to somebody who asked that question. Do you want me, is it okay if I read it to you guys now?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's impossible. Even if you're an atheist, it's impossible not to be filled with hope in the face of all the horrible things that happen in this broken world when you hear this. Um, Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw a holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be there with them and be their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there will be no
Yeah.
more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of these things has passed away." And he who is seated on the throne said, "I am making everything new." And then he said, "Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true." He said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give them water without cost from the spring of the water of life. Those who are victorious will inherit all of this, and I will be their God, and they will be my children."
That's unreal.
As soon, yeah, I knew exactly what you were going to say actually, because I was just thinking that one line where it talks about God wiping away every tear. I remember when I first read that, and I just cried my eyes out.
Yeah.
I absolutely cried my eyes out. Just the thought of that. And it's again, he's right there with you. It doesn't the way you answer that question doesn't have to make someone feel better. In fact, whenever I've thought about answering that question to someone, I think one of the things I would probably lead with is, do you know what? This answer is probably not going to make you feel better,
Yeah.
but it's the truth.
It's a powerful verse, man.
Yeah. He's gonna stand in front of you and wipe away every tear.
Wow.
I think it's Isaiah 6. Oh no, I don't think it is Isaiah 6. I think it's somewhere in Isaiah where there's a prophecy. I heard John MacArthur talking about this, and it was quite chilling, actually. And I know this is a departure from what we're actually talking about, but there's a part where it's like a prophecy. It's a prophecy, and God is meeting with the angels, and he's talking about how there's one final enemy that has to be removed from creation before the new heaven and earth can be put in place. And he's and it's like God's like bigging up how evil this person is in the way that he's talking about it, and then he says, like, and it's man, like the enemy is man that has to be out of the way, and you've got to think about imagine that you were the person there who saw that meeting, and like you were listening to God describing how wretched this person was, and just how evil they were, thinking, "Yeah, man, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna get rid of these
Yeah, let's get on with it."
And then it's like it's you. How brutal that must have been.
Yeah.
But it's exactly right. People are just evil.
And it's the other thing as well. It reminds me again. I mentioned the church that I've been going to. There's this attitude going around there that if you get a feeling that makes you feel bad, it's not of God.
Right. Yeah. That's
and it's
like even if it's to do with sin type of thing.
Yeah. Like they think that all God does is make you feel good, like a hippie Jesus type of thing. And if he needs to, he's gonna give you some harsh truths.
Yeah.
Some of the most motivating things towards God that I've experienced in my life have not made me feel good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something that's been kind of striking me recently. Is that like I'm really, I mean, I told you guys about the doctrine that me and my dad was discussing a while ago in the Bible that talks about the need for you to actually be righteous and do good work. And things like that. And it kind of, the implications that has on the Christian life has really led me to kind of be convicted about different sins in my life. And that, I think that is a really important thing, that like God isn't just there to make your life as easy and happy and nice as possible.
Yeah.
It's there to grow you in righteousness and holiness.
There's a big element of truth to what you're saying as well. I think. But what you've got to remember with that is that you run the risk of living in the Old Testament again.
No, yeah, obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
And like, so I mean, there is a huge importance on works, and works being a symptom of being saved. But I don't. I mean, from my understanding, it doesn't say that your works have to be perfect.
No, no.
They
Just
never
that you
could
have
be.
to have works. You have to have some sort of practical outworking of your faith,
Yeah. I mean, the way it was explained
and that
to
can
me,
even be small. I would
Yeah.
add as well.
yeah, well, the way it was explained to me was, how do you explain to somebody who's on the deathbed who wants to be a Christian, oh, you need to have works to be a Christian. You can't, that person can't become a Christian on the deathbed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That was the way that really helped me understand it.
Well, yeah, and then you make that point, and then you've got the what was it, the thief that was crucified next to Jesus.
Yeah, what good works did he have?
Exactly, he had none.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, other than throwing himself at the mercy of Jesus while he was still alive.
Mm.
It's an interesting one. Well, I think the reason is because it's not the works themselves that
No.
sanctify you. It's the faith that leads to works. And so Jesus
Yeah.
was fully aware that
Yeah.
this guy didn't have works, but if he wasn't nailed to a cross at the time,
He would end up with it. It's all
Yeah.
about it being a symptom,
Yeah,
rather
exactly.
than a
It's the
means.
sign.
And I think that's a way in which a lot of non-Christians misrepresent it. They think that that we might try and do good things as a means of salvation. And I always say to people, I don't try and better myself to get saved. I try and better myself because I am saved.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, it's interesting as well, I think, because as well, in the same, people think the goal is heaven, don't they? People have this view of Christianity that the goal is heaven, and the heaven is a byproduct of the goal, which is obviously to glorify God. Heaven is a bonus of the goal, and I think it's just one of those cultural. It's crazy because I believe deep down everybody does know the truth. Deep down, everybody on some level knows God exists. That's why
I think it talks about that in the Bible somewhere.
Yeah, it says
Yeah,
that
it's-
everyone's aware of the truth, but they suppress it in their own righteousness.
Yeah, and it says in I think it's in 1 Romans 1 maybe. It says everybody has been given enough evidence that they have no excuse. And
That's part of our job is to take the excuses away as well.
yeah, I never thought of it like that. And I think, did you know it comes natural to children to pray? Absolutely natural, which
Really?
makes total sense. Yeah, I didn't know that. Apparently, even if you raise kids in a totally a-religious household, there's still a natural inclination for them to pray.
Yeah, Simone's little sister prays, and it's the most adorable thing you will ever see. It's amazing. Well, I've got nothing really to add. I think I've
No, I'm done.
exhausted my jaw.
What on earth?
Oh, sorry about that.
What? What is that? Is that the outro music? What on earth? That was so surreal. I was like, who's doing this?
You know what gets me is he's like, oh sorry, as though it was just a total he does it without thinking about it.
It's
a habit. Is that a bad habit of yours? Oh, sorry guys. I'm always doing that.
I had the iPad
not
next
again.
to I had the iPad next to me, and one of the widgets that I've got is like a tuning thing, so it gives you notes. And literally, I don't know why, I wasn't even thinking about it. I started pressing the button, and then Jake was like, "What is that?" And then I was like, "Oh yeah, I've got a microphone on." That was a total
It's
mess.
still gunning in the background, like.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
wow.
that was me. Just
Right.
I was. It was
That was
like I
pretty
trying to
seismic
demonstrate.
on the Durpo scale. That was.
I think, man, we need to introduce the dirt of the week to regular
got to be
thing.
a
That was
segment.
hilarious.
We need to even
Yeah.
animate like a little Durpo meter, and like
Yeah.
That's a Richter 5 on the Derpometer.
Richter 5.
Yeah, we've even got a little derper thing now. Oh. There you go.
Yeah, that can be the theme tune to Derp of the Week, and for our next segment, Derp of the Week.
I think it'll be Bill Nye more often than not, you know.
What's
I
that?
have a feeling he's going to make a repeat appearance. He's going to be a
Just
repeat
watch
offender, I think.
Weekly episodes of
Yeah, what did Bill Nye say this week?
his new cook show. It'll be.
What direct contradiction to his previous opinion back in 1997 did Bill Nye make today?
Yeah.
What was Bill Nye paid to change his mind on?
Right.
I think Hillary Clinton's going to be a derp as well. She's got to be up there with some of the things she said recently, I think.
I haven't seen anything she said recently. Like, I
Just
think she'd left
ridiculous.
the country because she thought she was going to get arrested. Like,
That would have been interesting, wouldn't it?
yeah.
Well, actually, oh yeah, Bernie was our derp of the week, wasn't
Oh yes.
Yeah,
he? Bernie.
by far.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Bernie Sanders, if you're listening. You are the derp of the week.
Anyone that watched, even if it was just those four people briefly, God bless. I hope you took something from it that you didn't have previously. And if you disagree with anything that we've said, on behalf of everyone, I'd like to express my respect for your opinion.
Yeah.
And good luck with that opinion and everything else in life. Thanks a lot for watching.